Welcome to today's episode of History Uncovered, where we dive deep into pivotal moments that shaped our world. I'm your host, Alex Parker, and today we're taking a fascinating look at a chapter of history that may not often be in the spotlight: Australia's role in the imperial appeasement policy during the Interwar Period. Now, when we think about the lead up to World War II, we often focus on countries like Germany, Britain, and France. But today, we're shining a light on how Australia influenced British foreign policy decisions at such a crucial time.
That's right, Alex. We might think of Australia as a distant player in these events, but their involvement was significant. For example, this comprehensive study we're discussing is the first of its kind in over 30 years, meticulously examining archival records from both Australia and the United Kingdom. It reveals just how actively Australian governments pursued appeasement policies, often going even further than the British government led by Neville Chamberlain.
Absolutely, and it's crucial to understand what we mean by appeasement. In this historical context, appeasement refers to the diplomatic policy aimed at avoiding conflict by making concessions to an adversary, in this case, Nazi Germany. It was a strategy that, while aiming for peace, is often criticized for enabling aggression. Now let's dive into the political and social environment of Australia in the 1930s.
During this period, Australia was emerging from the shadow of World War I, a conflict that left deep scars across communities. Every Australian family was touched by the losses of the Great War, and this profound sense of grief shaped their collective psyche. On top of that, the Great Depression hit hard, with severe economic setbacks. Unemployment soared, and poverty became widespread. However, despite these challenges, Australia maintained a robust democratic system, unlike many countries which experienced political turmoil at the time.
That's a remarkable point. Australia's ability to hold on to its democratic values amid such adversity. It highlights the resilience of their political landscape. But we also have to discuss the stark realities of class divisions that emerged during the Depression. The rich became richer, while the poor faced even harder times. This growing divide created a unique climate that deeply influenced foreign policy decisions.
Indeed, and let's not forget the imperial identity that Australia's citizens held. They viewed themselves as a part of the British Empire, thousands of miles away from the proverbial home. This belief framed their approach to international relations and influenced how Australian leaders perceived threats, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region. Feelings of racial anxiety were also prevalent, particularly regarding the neighboring yellow races to the north, which fueled their foreign policy outlook.
Now, let's talk about the major political figures who shaped Australia's foreign policy in this era. Key leaders like Joseph Lyons, who was the Prime Minister during the height of the appeasement movement, and Robert Menzies, who succeeded him, played pivotal roles. Lyons was particularly notable for his affinity towards appeasement, and under his leadership, the country took significant steps to directly influence British policy concerning Europe.
Robert Menzies, on the other hand, became a significant figure in Australian politics as well, known as a rising star within the Conservative bloc. His approach often contrasted with his public stance on appeasement and the war. For instance, publicly, he underscored the need for calm and unity, but privately, he held deep-seated fears about the sustainability of a war against Germany. It's fascinating how leaders had such contrasting personas.
Right. This duality of public resolve versus private doubt is so characteristic of political leadership during crises. It brings us to one of the critical moments of this period, the Sudetenland Crisis in September 1938. This event served as the first major test of Australian involvement in the appeasement policy. Here we see Hitler's demands escalating with the aim of annexing the German-speaking regions of Czechoslovakia.
Exactly. What's crucial to understand about this crisis is that it didn't just affect Europe. The choices made during this time had worldwide implications, including how Australia positioned itself. Britain and France faced immense pressure. Should they support Czechoslovakia against those demands or look for a way to accommodate Hitler? Australians were watching very closely.
And then we have Menzies. During this tension-filled period, he publicly advocated for strength and stability, presenting a calm front to the Australian public. However, Behind closed doors, his apprehensions ran deep. He believed that not only was Poland in grave danger, but he also felt that Britain was poorly prepared for a large-scale conflict. He even criticized British diplomatic failures, specifically the agreement between Stalin and Hitler. How wild was that moment in history, where even the political allies were in question?
It truly was. And that sentiment was reflected in S.M. Bruce, Australia's High Commissioner in London at the time, who had a unique vantage point. He engaged in intense discussions with British cabinet members and advocated for a peaceful resolution. That was a major push during the Sudetenland negotiations. His intervention was pivotal, urging that a military response would have dire consequences for Europe, potentially dragging Australia into conflict.
I love how interconnected these worlds were, even across continents. The actions of Bruce and other politicians show us that decisions made in one country could echo across the globe. And consider Lyons's direct call to Chamberlain, the British Prime Minister, proposing a personal appeal to Mussolini to avert war. This was quite an unprecedented move. It really signifies Australia's willingness to step up at a crucial juncture.
An incredible moment in diplomatic history. Lyons suggested to Chamberlain that calmness and negotiation should lead rather than conflict. He even sent a formal cable outlining 3 points, all emphasizing the importance of avoiding war over the Sudetenland crisis. It's fascinating that these negotiations and correspondences intertwined Australian ambitions directly with British decisions.
As we peer at the unfolding events of the Munich Agreement, where Chamberlain went on to propose an international conference to resolve the crisis, one can't help but wonder, did Australia's involvement, particularly in urging for dialogue, sway the final decision? Did those in power understand the gravity of a wrong step? It's moments like these that remind us of the ripple effects of foreign policy.
Absolutely, Alex. That's what's so riveting about history. Each decision is rooted in context and compounds towards future outcomes, a delicate balance of diplomacy and power dynamics. Let's not forget that this era was driven by fear of aggressive expansion, fear of domestic unrest, and fear of a repeat of past traumas like the Great Depression. These sentiments lingered in the air and directly influenced policies.
And so here we wrap up our exploration of Australia's role in the interwar period and the broader implications of appeasement policies. While their participation may seem lesser known, it carried significant weight in the political ballroom of the 1930s. From leaders like Lyons and Menzies to diplomatic maneuvers involving Bruce, Australia's influence was real, consequential, and an essential thread in the tapestry of history.
Before we finish, it's crucial to reflect on the broader takeaway here about leadership, the complexities of foreign policy, and the delicate balance of peace. As we learn about our past, we gain insights into both the human condition and the web of international relations that continues to shape our world today. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.